a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.
Gino shot.
Get to Gino spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Get to Gino spot.
Gino spot.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Gino Spot. Indeed, we are here during load shedding, but we've got power. We've got power. I hope that that everybody in P is also, most of you are back into power. Again, I don't know, ESCOM, we never know what's going to happen. Never know what's going to happen, you know. But you can always take to Facebook and moan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I hope we're going to have a great time tonight. I know we're going to have an awesome time tonight because tonight is Sandy's Coffey Break. That's right. Sandy is going to be coming into the studio tonight with guests tonight. Woo! And we are going to talk, and we're going to talk about some serious conversations. Indeed, stuff that I can't really do, you know, but we'll talk to Sandy about that a little bit later. Charles Aubrey Jacobs, welcome to you indeed. And Wayne Jepson, all the way from California. Or is it Chicago? Oh, jealous Chicago. Indeed. One of the Jepson twins. I loved the story about the Jepsons where they were at the rugby. Wayne, I'm sure you'll remember at the rugby one day, and they were drunk and doing all sorts of things they shouldn't been doing, and then the mother and mom and dad didn't know they were home, but they were front page next day on the rugby posts. They were hanging out on the rugby posts on the newspaper. Who is this? What is this? That is a classic story, Wayne Jepson. I love that. Camilla Ellis, lovely to have you here as well. Camilla, been to physio, hey? Back out. Just been, listen to back out, been to physio. What's wrong with your back? Have you put your back out again, Camilla? And Carol Jacobs all the way, of course, standard 8 too. That was that in standard 8, grade 10. You little bastards. I could, you know, as a parent now, just honestly, as a parent now, Wayne, wouldn't you look back at your own kids and do the same as whatever punishment you got on that day? Carol Jacobs, indeed, Carol Jacobs all the way from East London. Lovely to have people from all over the place. That is the advantage of having the internet, the interweb. Indeed, one is YouTube so that you can watch Gino Spot, and the other one is the fact that you can watch from anywhere in the world, and you can comment just like Carol did. And so that's the thing. It's interactive television, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you have subscribed to YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube, because that is the best way to watch Gino Spot. You subscribe and then you push the bell. It goes ding, there's a little bell there, and you push the bell, and then it'll remind you every time, and you can be a part of the Neubert-Combe, PE, Nelson Mandela Bay, Eastern Cape community, and you can, especially for the expats, it's great as well for the guys to reconnect back home. Wendy Tompkins Thompson, lovely to have you here as well. Gee, and I love your hat. I don't know that's where that hat came from, Wendy, but it looks very nice on you. It looks such a throwback to the 20s. I like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to SPA, who's been absolutely phenomenal over this time. And they have renewed our contract, which is fantastic, so we can continue Gino Spot even when we get rid of masks, which I hope it's going to be very soon. I don't know. Uncle Cyril came on and said that in a month's time he was going to do away with all the rules. That's what he said. All law in South Africa is going to disappear after a month. That's what he said. Well, that's what I got out of it. We'll see what happens. And of course, Fitch and Leeds have always supported us as well as Fat Cats and Grace, who was running around like a maniac tonight as well, I'm sure. And I'm sure she's going to bring us some food at a later stage. In the meantime, we've got some chips. So we'll carry on with that now, Grace, until you come. It's fine. And then also our internet provider, Mobia, who's been rushing around, dashing around, trying to find batteries and stuff, I'm sure, for the internet while the load shedding is going on. Thank you, ESCOM, for the load shedding. But we are okay. So let me sing a song for you guys. Tell me where you're watching from and what you're drinking. I've got a little gin and tonic here. Actually, it's not a tonic. This one is like an energy drink or something. I've got the energy drink, which is the new one from Fitch and Leeds. Yay, thank you, Spa. Indeed, well done to Spa. And of course, we have a couple of Spa owners here as well, because they're also part of the community. Alicia was on a little while ago. We had a fantastic interview. And we're going to get a couple more of them on to chat. All right, so let me sing a song for you. Let me see what you've been doing. I'll sing a song. That's good. No, you shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will. Oh, what a thrill. Goodness grapes, subscribe today. You left the love because I thought it was funny. You went to YouTube and pushed that, honey. Come on, baby. You drive me crazy. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Sandy Coffey, ooh, is coming on just now. That's right, we're gonna talk all night, that's right. Send me something to sing all night. That's right, you're fine. I wanna tell the world that you're mine, 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 mine. I chew my nails and I twiddle my thumbs. And Sue Snodgrass is there. You are so funny, I like you too. Goodness gracious, Sue Snodgrass. Woo! That's right. Where's your horses? I like it, Snodgrass. They got all the horses. That's why my wife always there at the horse unit. If you got any spare money, you gotta put it there, cause the horses need it, yeah. Carrie McLean, watching from Vancouver Island, that's all the way in Canada. Sandy and Wendy's sister, woo, your family's watching. They're gonna swear and embarrass you tonight. That's right, Carrie, man. You're so fine. I tell the world that you're mine, 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 mine. I chew my nails and I twiddle my thumbs. I sure am nervous, but it sure is fun. Tonight we got Sandy's Coffey Break. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Woo, that's right, we are ready to rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic to have you all on board tonight. All toot toot, all aboard for Sandy's Coffey Break tonight. Jackie Hutton, lovely to have you. And Jackme Hutton, I don't know if it's Jackie or Jamie Hutton. Is that part of the Hutton clan indeed? That must be Buffy and the clan. I saw Buffy the other day. We did a lovely little send-off for Yvonne Huisen at Theodore and with Robin Williams. And there was Buffy was there to say hello to. Fantastic. All right. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, on tomorrow night as well, we are looking at conservation. And Arnold Slubbert is going to be on tomorrow night. We're going to talk about conservation. And you know what is important about that tomorrow night as well is that, I got caught out because I caught a rats in my house. There was a rat in my house. Good Lord, man. And I caught it in a cage, and I thought I was being very good. I didn't use poison because we've been told that poison's so bad and it's not the right thing to use, of course, and we know that. So I caught it in the cage and then I let it off in the valley, and I got crapped on because apparently they are invasive and they eat the bloody bird life. Those little rats, little bastards. So we got to find out what we need to do with with animals and plant the flora and fauna, and find out what we need to look out for. And if we find a bucket at the side of the road, or if we find any, how can we help to protect our environment and nature, and particularly the animals, the wild animals that are living around in our urban environment. You know, they're in here. They are living here with us. Where else have they got to go? Nowhere. That's where. So make sure you pop in and chat to Arnold Slubbert tomorrow night as well. You can ask questions. You can do what you like, because of course you can ask questions, because this is Gino's spot indeed. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that I'm going to call on Sandy quickly to pop in, because we have Sandy's Coffey Break tonight. So come in now. Come on in, Sandy. Come on in.
Ooh, welcome to the show. Now is your time to shine. We're gonna have a lekker chat tonight. Another good time.
Well, it says enjoy your coffee break. That's where it sounds like I'm moving the mics around. You see, we did that on purpose.
No, I can see it. Can we hear?
They can hear us. Can you hear us, Gary? Can you hear us out there? Everybody in Gino's Spotland. Can you hear the mics? We hope so. And we hope that your internet is up and running. And we hope that you are not ending up with load shedding as well, because everybody's got load shedding tonight.
I'll see that, yeah, for the next week.
I know. Stage 4 or something. We don't know. Was it your fault? What did you do, Sandy? Did you knock over a glass
That's what I didn't do.
Just knocked over your brandy and blew up a thing.
And I blew up a substation.
A substation, yes. Sandy Coffey, lovely to have you on. And,
Thank you.
And for those of you who haven't seen the first one, it's also online as well. Please pop in and have a look at the Coffee Breaks. We're going to try and do it like monthly,
Yeah.
I think. We're
Yeah,
gonna
I
try
think
and do
monthly
it.
is good.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And Sandy, it is your job to do the stuff that I can't do, you know.
Well, it seems like you can do a whole lot, so I'm not sure what's left for me.
No, there's plenty left, and that is generally those. I know you do a story slam. This is where this, I think this idea kind of started. Is you do a live story slam. Just tell the guys a little bit about it.
Actually, I think the first one is Dare to Share. I used to run those
Dare to
before
Share.
COVID, where I had a group of, intimate sort of environment in the restaurant or in someone's house, and we took subjects that are sort of difficult conversations to
Go
have.
on.
And we just had conversations, but then COVID killed that. So this is
Yeah,
kind of a really lovely way to extend that in the light of that we can't get together around a table or a restaurant. So it takes the place of that.
But I think it's also now, at least it allows a wider audience because. I mean, from what I've seen, especially over COVID, is that there are a lot of people in a state of depression out there, and in an anxious space, and I think a program like this. Gino Spot helps to try and cheer people up and reconnect people, but those difficult conversations are the ones that I feel that I can't really do, so I hand over to someone like yourself who can do that stuff, those difficult conversations.
Yeah, I think difficult conversations are important. I think that real and honest conversations are very important. I think if we don't have them, then lots gets unsaid.
Yeah.
And there's misinterpretation, and there's expectation, and there's all that nonsense. If you can sit down and have a good conversation with your family or with your friends, then that's the magic.
And who better to learn from than the people that are experiencing these
100%,
situations? Because when I speak to somebody, and I've had many guests who've even spoken about suicide and spoken about serious things like that, and I feel like I'm not qualified to do that. But somebody that's been in that situation is immediately qualified.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the premise of it. People ask me, why have I done this? And I just said it's important to have those conversations. It's life's too short not to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have them, then what the hell is the point?
Yeah.
Let's be brave human beings.
It's true. Bravery is the thing. And so we're gonna hit Sandy's coffee break. Try and do it once a month, if we can. There's no rules in this place, so we as long as you feel happy to do these things. I am so pleased that you've taken it on, because it gives Gino Spot, for me, it gives Gino Spot a more meaning as well, and a more use to people out there as well.
Well, I'm just as grateful to have this platform, because I know a lot of real, beautiful human beings who've got a story to tell.
Yeah.
So this is the platform.
Well, there we go. So we're gonna do a little introductory video, and then you can get started. I think.
Are we done?
Is that the one? the coffee break one. Oh, Gary's already done one. You've got an introduction yourself there.
Yeah, no, you've already introduced me, so I feel
Oh,
that's a
that's
good
right.
thing.
Yes.
No, we're all good. Okay. So the other thing that you may want to share is how you can interact with the...
Yes, interact with obviously with the comments. We encourage comments at all time. Any question, there's no rules, right? Any question you like, we'll edit out any swearing.
And also, our subject tonight is quite heavy, and I know it from both my guests that there is no question that is off limits.
Yeah.
They are both robust enough to take anything that you want to ask them. It's a hard subject, it's a difficult conversation, it's painful, and at the same time, it's showing how a human spirit can endure something. But any questions, throw them up.
Yeah.
We're happy to answer.
And it's on YouTube, so obviously it will remain on YouTube as well, so you can share it as well afterward. If you feel anybody needs to be watching, please tag them. Just tag them, because it'll come up immediately on their Facebook or wherever they are. It's on the phone. That's the beauty of this thing.
Yeah,
is
totally.
that if you feel somebody relates to something, tag them, because it's going to help them for sure, and especially if you've been through something like this as well, it can only help.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gino.
Okay, so you
Awesome.
you can go for it,
Can I
Sandy.
pull
You
my
can
guests in?
Call your guests in, indeed.
Okay, so the first guest that I want to welcome, which side are you sitting, Wendy? On this side, and Shareen this side. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And you come.
Wendy and Shareen, in you go.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Wendy. Wendy's a South African who lives in Canada and has been for the last, here she is, that one, for the last 16 years. And she also happens to be my big sister. So I'm very thankful that you're here telling your story because it's a difficult one, and I'm so thankful. And then there's Shareen, who lives in St. Francis Bay, and she too has a very painful story to share, but she's she's just a dear friend, and everybody in the community loves her, and you're like one of the shining lights where we live, which is in St. Francis. So thank you for being here.
Thanks.
We really
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it. Okay. So loss is unavoidable. No one escapes it. We all have it in various forms of our life. But some people get a harder hit than others, and especially when it comes to the loss of a child. So tonight we will have that conversation. We will have the conversation around losing the most precious thing in the entire world. And these two moms have survived it. And we're going to talk about how they managed to carry on and how difficult it's been. But here they are today, and I mean both of them in various forms can share joy today, can have the laugh, can have fun times, which I'm thought at the time you probably thought you would never be able to do.
Yeah.
They are courageous women, they are real, and they are warrior women, true warrior women. And I am so grateful that you're here, and I salute you both. So I'm going to kick off by reading something that Wendy wrote a week after her son died. She wrote it to a friend, and this is, as she wrote it, it has not been edited. My throat is tight, and my heart is broken into so many pieces that I fear it will never be put back together again. And that leaves me feeling so fearful for the way forward. I don't want to be broken. I don't want to be broken for my two daughters, my husband, and my grandchildren. But I cannot see me ever being that joyful, optimistic, balanced mama again. And that undoes me all over again. I simply want to curl up into a ball and sleep. The looping thoughts are, I am his mother. It was my duty to protect him and take care of him, and I failed. I know that is irrational. He was 39 years old. But even so, that is how my heart feels. I hope his pain and sorrow and grief will become less excruciating, but I don't see how it can. So that's my introduction, and that was a week after Hilton died. So let's just get some story and some context first. And I just want to ask Shareen about your story first.
Okay, so for many, well, my husband and I had a beautiful, James, my son, who was our firstborn, and obviously we were desperate to have more children. So we tried a couple of times to have another baby, which unfortunately ended up in miscarriages. And we prayed long and hard to have another baby, and deep down, what I really, really would have always loved was a little girl. And we were finally blessed with a beautiful daughter, and to cut a very long story short, we were involved in a terrible car accident with a truck. Megan Rose was only nearly a month old, and we were involved in a terrible collision with a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel, and very horrible, nasty accident, and she was killed in the car accident. I was also very badly injured, so at the time I didn't realize what had happened to her. Only remember snippets of the accident, one of them being when I was in the ambulance with her on the way to the hospital, when the paramedic, I asked him if she was going to be okay, and he said to me, she was on oxygen, and he said, no, I think she's going to be brain damaged. And I was drifting in and out of consciousness, and we got to the hospital, and the doctor then came to me and said, you're going to have to say goodbye to your daughter now, because she was declared dead on arrival. So it was just, it was a horrible, nasty accident, and our baby girl that we loved more than anything in the world was, sorry.
No, don't apologise.
So she was only a month old, and she was in my arms at the time of the accident because I'd been feeding her, and it was early hours of the morning, and it was just a freak accident. This truck driver, like I say, had huge rolls of pressed metal on the back of his truck, fell asleep at the wheel, overcorrected. The load fell onto the road, onto the highway, and my husband had no other option but to do the best that he could and try and save his family, and there was no ways that that she could have survived. So,
How long ago?
2002, so Megan will be 20 now, this year in June.
Thank you. When's?
I'm so sorry. Hasn't died. He was found on the road, on the pavement, on the 6th of December 2019, after being missing for 10 days. I'm sorry. He was the most beautiful little boy. He was the most extraordinary young man, but he suffered from an hideous, revolting, obscene disease of addiction. And in fact, he started dying long before he died. He was 39 when he died, and trying to find him was the most difficult challenge of my life. There is no way to describe the pain of losing a child, because they grow in our belly. They are a part of who we are. So there's a pain, a physical pain that we experience, that I experienced when Hilton died. There was a visceral response to his death that was excruciatingly painful. But I have to say that he wasn't just his death. We have become grateful for the years that we had with him. So yeah, that's the story in a nutshell, I guess.
Just take a deep breath.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Would you like a glass of wine?
Why do
Yeah.
we apologize?
We shouldn't
Isn't that crazy?
apologize,
We apologize.
100%.
We don't need to apologize.
So, the pain is still very real. So the question I want to ask both of you, and whoever wants to answer first, is how does that pain, that numb pain that first happens, which I'm assuming that it is, to today, like, does it get any better? Does it change? Does it morph? What does it do?
I don't know how you feel, Wens, but I think that when people tell you, oh, time heals and gets better with time, it doesn't get better with time. It just gets a little bit different. So you just learn to deal with it a little bit differently, and you adapt and that. But I can honestly say that not one single day goes by when I don't think of Megan Rose. Not one single day goes by. So it'll be tiniest little thing, and I always, you just learn to deal with it differently. So time, and do you agree, Wens? Like, time doesn't heal, you just learn to
Navigate.
live with it. You just learn to navigate, you just learn to live with it, and little things will set you off. Some days you'll have better days, like some days I can speak factually and openly about, I can recall exactly what happened, and I can tell people the story and not shed a tear. And other times I can't. So, I don't know. That's how I feel. It just doesn't get
agree with you.
easier. It just gets different. So, yeah. If I'm making sense.
No,
You're
yeah.
absolutely making sense. There's a wonderful graphic. I don't know whether you ever saw it, of a bottle, and inside the bottle is grief, and it's a big ball in the bottle, and it takes up most of the space in the bottle. And the graphic goes, and I'm paraphrasing now. The ball doesn't reduce. We just grow around that ball. We grow more around that ball. And that grief becomes a very integral part of who we are. And I mean, I think that it's about giving ourselves grace to feel what we feel, to be what it is in that moment, and learn. For me, and it's my experience, is for me to learn to live with grief and gratitude side by side. As I say, Hilton's journey was a fractious journey. It was a journey filled with pain and suffering. He suffered. He had a really awful second part of his life. So I've got to that place where I no longer wish for him to be back here, because I know that would be selfish of me. But my sadness is around how awful his life was. And I didn't realize that until he died. And that's my sadness.
So that's the thing.
We were so blessed to have him for 39 years.
And
Anyway, I understand.
So Renz and I were talking about earlier. So I was saying how I always think it must be so much worse. I have friends who've lost children, tragically, older children, and like I said to Wendy earlier, to me I always think, whoa, I wouldn't cope. Like I wouldn't cope if one of my older children died, and how do you do it? And then I've got some friends who say, well, I don't know how difficult it must be for you that Megan Rose died when she was still so young, and so I see you grieving for a life, your child's life, that after having had him for so many years, and then you were saying to me you can't understand how hectic it must be for me grieving for my daughter I'm grieving for the years that we lost, that we never had with her.
Yes.
So it's
And that's the thing about grief, Sandy. It is
it's different for everybody.
so personal. It is such a personal journey that needs to be honored for what it actually is.
And so what is grief?
It's a big, black, ugly, horrible, revolting, horrible thing that should never ever happen to anyone. It's something that just changes you as a person and just takes the life out of you and just wipes you away, and everyone deals with it differently, but it just never ever goes away, and it just changes your life.
And what is it for you, Wendy?
It's excruciating physical pain. Initially, that was what it was, and it continues to be inexplicable waves that come, like Shareen was talking about, where on some days I can also talk about Hilton almost in a detached way, and I can record what happened and how his life played out, and then there are other days where that wave just takes the feet from under me. So it's an ongoing journey, and I think that we start to navigate it in a way that allows us to survive.
True.
And how do you handle it when you do have that wave of grief? So some days are easier, you can talk, and it's something that you can discuss without too much emotion, and then the days, or even the unseen days, where you wake up and you're not speaking to anybody. So how do you navigate that?
I just immerse myself in it.
You immerse yourself in it. What does that look like?
Weeping.
Okay.
Stillness. Turning in actually, and weeping, and allow myself to fully feel the grief. That's
Yeah.
my way.
Definitely. And I was actually saying to my mum this morning, when I was sitting in bed thinking about tonight and this conversation and everything, that you just can't explain it to anybody how you think, and especially like for me, it's almost 20 years. I mean, Megan will be 20 now in June. That it just comes. It's like floodgates that open, and sometimes you don't even realize that you're crying. You don't even know that you are, and you just have to. And I'm blessed to have the most amazing family and incredible friends and husband, and that who just get it. So I'll have days where something will trigger me off, and I will not want to get out of bed, or I will just that raw sobbing, and that, like you said, that weeping that just comes from here, that you just can't control, and you just have to, like you say, embrace it. You just have to immerse yourself in it, and just go with it, because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about it.
Did either of you get support aside your family? I'm talking about professional support or religious support, or, I mean...
Yeah, I did. Incredible support from my family. My mum had also lost a child, so she totally...
Mum.
Yeah, exactly. Same as your mum. So, I mean, in the beginning when I woke up because I was in ICU for quite a while after Megan Rose died as well, and life support and that. So when I came around, I remember my parents being there, and my husband obviously, and James, and I just didn't want to wake up, so I just wanted to die. I just thought, let me just close the curtains, leave me, let me go, what's the point? And I remember my mom and my dad saying to me, you can do this, because they'd been there and they knew, and they knew exactly what I was going through, and just incredible family support and friends that I could never even begin to even try and understand or explain how amazing my friends are and have been. They just picked me up and they carried us through everything. And then sorry, you said also like support groups and that.
Yeah, I just wondered how.
And then I went for therapy. We went for therapy and joined the Compassionate Friends for a while and that. And then also the first person, is this the time to talk about faith support and that sort of thing as well?
Anything's good.
Yeah, so obviously the first person we blamed was God. I was like, well, why, after we'd prayed so long and hard for this beautiful, beautiful baby girl, why did God give her to us only to take her away? I mean, what's the reason? God just got the blame completely. And then it was just incredible, because the hospital we were in the Free State, every single doctor, psychiatrist, physiotherapist, every single surgeon that worked on me and they were there looking after us, all these incredible Christians. And they all came and stood around my bed and just held hands, and they made prayer chains, and they prayed and prayed and prayed and sat at my bedside and spoke me through it and spoke to us about free will, and that God doesn't give you a child to take them away. He's not punishing you. They just put everything into perspective, and thank God they did, because if it hadn't been for my faith, I would never have got through it, because I just clung. Eventually it all kind of not made sense, but it all got put into perspective for me, and my husband and James, I suppose. I mean, James used to ask the most unbelievable questions, and I think he also helped us to heal, because he would ask questions like, Mum, why did God save us but take Megan Rose away? And why didn't he do this, and why didn't he do certain things? So we had to ask ourselves those questions as well. And then there was, sorry, can I carry on, because I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're not. You're talking perfectly.
And there was this incredible woman who came in, who'd also lost a child. And she was friends with a lot of the doctors in the hospital. And I'll never forget, she came and she'd always said to them, if another family comes in here having lost a child, I just know that I want to be there for them and I want to come and help them. So they contacted her, and she walked into the hospital, and she was like an angel, like a guardian angel. And she just came to us and she said to us, you don't know me from a bar of soap, just know that I know what you're going through. Give me your son, because James was lying next to me. Give me your son. I've got children the same age. I've lost a child. let me take him home to my house. My home's open to your family to come and stay with me for as long as they like. And she opened her home up to my whole family, and she sat by my bedside day after day after day, counseling me, talking to me, praying with me, picking pieces of glass out of my head, just looking after me. She was just incredible.
Are you still in touch with her?
Yeah, not as much as I should be, but we were for a long time. So that was incredibly healing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And your support?
Well, you, hugely, because you swept in like a guardian angel and saved me when this whole thing was happening. But going forward, it was the beginning of the pandemic, and I just wanted to be alone. I went in on myself, and my husband Clive had a different way of navigating this whole grieving thing, and he went to work and I stayed at home, and every day he would phone me and say, I don't like the fact that you're on your own, but recognize that was my way. And my sister Carrie, whenever she could, she would come and sit with me. She would check in on me. My mum, as we know, lost our brother, so she had survived the loss of a child, so I had huge insight into that too. But what was interesting for me is I thought of going to Compassion Friends, and I never got myself to do it. And I don't really know. I didn't really think too hard about it. I just followed my instincts. And my therapy was, and I have very little memory of it, was putting together a life book of Hilton. So I found photographs from when he was born, and I am not very internet savvy, but I managed to use a company that makes books. And I wrote a little bit in the book, and it took me about 6 months to make the book, and I don't have much memory of it. But I have the book. I have the book sitting on our coffee table that we can look at whenever we want to. And in that initial period, I found myself closer to God. I spoke to God, and I meditated, and I spent my time mostly alone because I chose to. So yeah, I think that therapy is probably a really good idea, but I think that we had been, I should speak for myself, I think I had been waiting for Hilton to die since he was 22.
Sure.
So there was that element of, okay, now's my time for introspection, now's my time for excavating down, now's my time for really getting honest with me, myself, and facing it all. It was messy. Life is messy. Life is messy, and we have to face what we have to face.
So how did you, if you can even articulate this, but from being in this space to getting to where you are today, where you can have joy and you can laugh and you can interact and you can find moments of fun, even though you wake up every single day and you think about Hilton and Megan Rose, how do you get to here? Is it time?
You first, Wendy.
I think for me, it's that year of introspection, that year of coming to terms with the fact that Hilton's contract was up. After Hilton died, after Sandy let the world know, we were flooded with messages from people that he had helped. It makes me sad again when I think about it. He helped so many people get into recovery, but he couldn't help himself. And the volume of messages were overwhelming and made me realize that that was why he was here. And then it was done, and he just couldn't do it anymore. I don't think he took an overdose on purpose. I don't even know whether it was an overdose, but he died and he went home. And Clive always says to me, he's free, he's without pain, and he's no longer suffering. And that is almost like a daily mantra. I go to sleep at night, he's the last thought, and I wake up in the morning and he's the first thought I have.
That's what you said.
And that's exactly what you said. I have his ashes around my neck, and I'm constantly finding myself holding onto the cylinder. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that. And he's,
So your question was, how do you
How
get
do
to
you
here?
get to here? Yeah.
So I know I said earlier, that time doesn't necessarily heal, but obviously it helps to make things more manageable and better. And it's also has a lot to do with the people that come into your life, the support that we've spoken about of family and friends, and also more children. I mean, I was fortunate and blessed enough to have had another 2 beautiful children. Not that they're ever replacement children, because that's a big thing. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you have to have another child quickly." But I mean, I remember in the early days, soon after Megan died, I think to myself, you have manic stages that you go through where you actually lose your mind a bit. And I used to think, maybe if I just have another baby quickly, I'll just pretend that she never died. Like, I can just leave her nursery like this and just pretend that it's her, or, it took me ages to clear out her room and that. But no child's ever a replacement child. But I was just, got 2 beautiful new children, an amazing, amazing, amazing husband, David, hope you're watching. And just family and support and amazing friends, and just people that get you through, and that you just realize that you have other things. You do have other things to live for. You have your other children to live for. You have your family to live for. You have to just carry on. You have to just carry on.
There's a big element of people carrying you. I remember when Sandy went to identify Hilton and came home and told me that he had gone, how she carried me, and we were in Durban and we went back to St. Francis, and my friend June didn't even ask, she just got in an aeroplane and came. My cousin and his wife just drove up, my brother and his wife just drove up, and they held me. That holding, I think, that holding set me up for life to come, actually, I think. And you're right, that's exactly what it is, what you just explained.
And friends who will come, and when you're having a bad day, come and hop into your bed at 6 o'clock in the morning and just, like you said, cry with you, hug you, not ask questions.
Yes.
Not just be with you, will sit with you all day and just love you through it.
So there are 2 things I want to ask. I've just picked up on what you both said. One is how did your marriage survive this or not survive it? And then the second thing I want to ask before I forget is when you have a tragedy like you have, people mean well. They want to say things, they want to do things, and sometimes those things can not be helpful, or they can be very helpful. And I just want to know what some of those things are, or how you would like people, or the advice you can give to someone being in the space of somebody who's just lost something, or someone.
Okay, well, as you know, my marriage didn't survive. So I remember in the beginning people saying to me, "Oh, you must be careful, marriages don't survive the loss of a child, and try and work on it. And I used to think, how can they say that? Like, surely only you and the father of your child can understand the loss, and how would anybody else ever even be able to comprehend that? But sadly, our marriage did end. We went through, there was a lot of trauma and a lot of heartache and a lot of, as obviously with every couple that loses a child, but ours, as much as hard as we tried, unfortunately, I think it's maybe more so from my side than anything else. I didn't.
And today, are you good with your ex-husband?
Yes, we've got a wonderful relationship.
That's a great
We've got
outcome.
a wonderful blend, lovely extended family, and we good friends, and we've come a long road, and I think we're fine. There'll always be that bond. I mean, we've had 3 beautiful children together, so one in heaven. I mean, Megan's, and we talk about her. We spoke about her today, and we both cried speaking about her. So that's a bond that we'll always share. But I'm now happily married with another little girl, and feel very blessed to have my amazing husband now, and who completely gets where both Megan's dad and I, what we've been through and how we feel, and is always so supportive of me on the anniversary of her birthday, and knows exactly how I'm feeling, and is just gets it. So I'm lucky to have that support.
Wens?
So, Clive was in Canada, and I was in South Africa because I rushed here to try and find Hilton, and he was working. And when I phoned to tell Clive that Hilton had died, he said to me, "I'm going to stay here because I need to be here for the girls. We have 2 daughters." And that was exactly what needed to be done. He needed to support our 2 girls, as I needed to go through the end stuff for Hilton here in South Africa. We not only survived Hilton's death, it's brought us significantly closer. And I think that one of the reasons for that is that we had shared Hilton's addiction journey. So there was that shared trauma of Hilton's life. And Clive was just extraordinarily supportive of how I needed to navigate it. And I know that I was supportive of the way he needed to navigate it. And we navigated it in 2 very different ways. But we did it side by side. So I feel deeply grateful to him, because he never once tried to stop me from doing it the way I needed to do it. So is that?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
So it's just different.
And it
different
is,
things,
I think that the most important thing about this grieving process for me, meeting people, and have you met people who've lost children subsequent to losing your child?
Yeah,
It's remarkable
close friends who
how
have,
it
yeah.
happens. And there's no right or wrong way. There really isn't. There is your way or my way. And it continues. We never stop. We never stop grieving.
So what are some of the pointers that you can give us to interact with people who've lost children? What wasn't helpful and what was helpful? I mean, I know people, you mentioned earlier.
So I think the best thing to do is you actually have to realize that you don't need to say too much, because even now, myself, if I had to now go and be with somebody who has lost a child, I always still feel out of my depth, and I'm scared to know what to do and to know what to say. But you actually don't need to say anything. All you have to do is just be there. Like, I had a very good friend who used to sit with me for hours and say, I'm not saying anything, I'm just here to pass the tissues. So I'm just going to sit here with you and just do what you got to do and just know that I'm here. There's people who will see you and purposefully cross the street so they don't have to see you. You know, I'll never forget, there was a lady who I was in the maternity ward with, and our babies were born at the same time. And I bumped into her in Warmer Park a little while after Megan Rose had died, and she had her baby. Her baby was a couple of months old, and she was so excited to see me, and she said, "How's Megan? Where is she? Why?" You know, I had to tell her. I said, "Well, unfortunately she died in a car accident," and she was completely floored. She didn't know what to do, what to say. She was completely traumatized. So she just actually walked off. But rather that than somebody say, I mean, we had people who used to say things like, God needed another angel in heaven. Megan Rose, he took her because he needed another beautiful rose in his rose garden. And so rather don't say, like if you're at a loss of word, you don't know what to say, rather just, you don't need to say anything. You just have to be there for the person and just support them and just know that and also talk about the child. I mean, I love mentioning her name and, showing people my baby books and her baby photos and talking about her. And you need to keep your child alive. You don't want to just pretend they never existed.
I think it's really important to be given the grace to be able to speak your child's name whenever you want to. And I do that. I think that Hilton's death has changed me in every single way. I'm a completely different person since he died. And one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that regardless of other people's discomfort, I will talk his name. And if people are uncomfortable, then that's their discomfort. It doesn't belong to me. Insofar as what one does, I refer back to a friend of mine who, when I got back to back to Canada, she phoned me and she said, "Can I come and see you?" And I said, "Sure." And she bought a bunch of flowers and she came and sat on the couch while I wept. And the first week, I wept for 3 hours. And after the 10th week, her coming every week, the weeping wasn't as long. But she never said anything. She just held my hand. She just held space. So I think that if I would try and do the same. I might actually say how sorry I am and may I give you a hug or may I hold your hand. But yeah, I think that people say stuff because they don't know how to deal with it. They say silly things, but they don't mean
any harm. Yeah.
Do you know our brother this morning? We had a chat this morning, and I hope I can get what he said correct. But we were talking about how people can offend in this sort of situation, and he said, he has lost the use of one of his arms.
Shame.
So he is often exposed to people trying to
Make him feel better.
better about the fact that he's lost an arm. And he said, "I never get offended by anybody saying anything to me unless they're meaning to offend me." And that was such an incredible
It's a good way of looking at it.
Isn't it?
People don't intentionally mean to hurt you when they say things like that.
So then you don't,
Really
basically putting their foot in it. So.
Yeah, because they don't know how to deal with it. And that's why I think it was important for Sandy to begin at the beginning to say that there are no questions that are off or out of bounds, because I think that this is a subject that should be spoken about more.
Yeah.
I think that both of us said that this is completely out of our comfort zone. But if it can reach someone, anyone, and allow them to feel not so alone, then it's worth doing.
How do you honor Megan Rose today? Like on anniversaries or moments, or how do you do that?
We're talking about
Yeah, we were chatting about it earlier. So on her birthday, like I said, she'll be 20 in June. Every single birthday I've got a beautiful big blown up photograph of her, and I make a little, almost like a shrine type thing. With
Tribute.
our tribute. We light a candle, and I've got her photograph, and a friend of mine made me a beautiful hand-painted ceramic towel with her name and in loving memory of Megan Rose and her birth date and the date of her death. And we light a candle, and we, just, I don't want to say celebrate, but I have had one, actually on her 18th birthday, I had a group of really close friends who came around, and David was away, working away, and I was on my own, and they just knew that they had to be there because, I mean, your 18th birthday, and I've got a lot of friends whose daughters were also celebrating their 18th birthdays at the time, and, matric dances and that. There she is. Oh, that's it, yeah. And they came round and they brought platters and snacks and champagne and wine and cake, and we had a celebration of her 18th birthday because it's quite a big milestone. So, I always celebrate her birthday, and then just there's little things, I suppose, that I do without even realizing it. I've got a memory box at home with, obviously, her baby book and her baby photographs and all the cards we got when she was born, and some of her clothes that I was never able to give to anybody else that she wore, and a gratitude journal. It's when you spoke earlier about gratitude. So in the depths of, like in the early, soon after she had died, when I saw No Way Out, I think I was watching Oprah once, and she said, when you're really in the darkest place, what you actually need to do is start a gratitude journal. And every morning, just wake up and write 5 little things that you're grateful for, whether it be, my husband brought me coffee in bed this morning, I woke up, it's raining, or James came in and gave me a cuddle, or whatever it is, it can be silly little things. And I just used to do that religiously every single day, and I called it Megan Rose's gratitude journal. And then and I took it out, and actually when you start going through it, you realize, wow, like I can see the light. I can get through this, because there's actually so much to be grateful for. Tiniest little things.
And did that happen to you with the book that you made for Hilton? Was that your...
I don't remember.
Oh.
I don't remember 2020 very much. But in terms of honouring him, I speak to him every single day of my life. After I've meditated, I will speak to him aloud. I also have a photograph and a candle, and they're those.
And the tree, Vince?
Yes, the tree. So it was Sandy's suggestion, actually, that we should plant a tree. And so it grew, and Sandy's tree was the first one that was planted in St. Francis in a pot. And we went back to Canada and we planted a tree there with our family, just our nuclear family. And then everybody that asked, Sandy's friend Lizzie planted a tree for him in Spain.
Wow.
And there's a whole forest.
A friend of ours in Cape Town, in Canada, brought a tree to my daughter, and she planted the tree in her garden. So that's a tangible way of honouring him, and it's growth, it's life, I guess. Yeah.
So, are there any questions that you two want to ask each other?
I don't know, we spoke so much earlier. I think we covered everything.
It's just, for me, it's not a question, it's a statement. There's such a connection when I meet somebody who understands and has full insight into what I've been through. There is this intangible connection that happens instantaneously. Yeah. There's a way Shareen hugged me. Just the way you hugged me.
Just when we met for the first time, before we'd even had a conversation.
Yes. It's almost like an acknowledgement.
It's like a bond.
It's an honouring and an acknowledgement, for sure.
I also wanted to just go back to your kids. You both have other children. How How has it affected the relationship with your other kids? I mean, obviously Katie wasn't born, but
So
you know, with yours.
yeah, well, James was born. Josh was
Yeah.
only born
Afterwards,
later.
yeah.
Sorry, Sans.
No problem.
But James was obviously 5, and him and I have come a long road together because he went through a hell of a
I'm
lot
sure.
of grief. I mean, he saw me nearly die, and he actually saw his sister die.
Ish.
Because when we got to the hospital, he actually held her while he didn't realize that because he was besotted with her, and he didn't want to let her go. So she was in the room next to me with her dad and James, and he wouldn't. And so Brian said to him, "You have to say goodbye to Megan now. The doctors have to take her away." And he just said, "No, Mommy, no, I don't want. I want that to see the angels take her to heaven." So he wouldn't let her go. So that was very traumatic,
Yeah.
and he couldn't understand the whole thing. So him and I have come a long road, and he was one of the main reasons why I fought to live so much, because I thought I've got this amazing child who I've got to live for, and he pulled me through mostly. And then after we sort of started healing and that, we were blessed with this gorgeous Josh, who was just it was almost like God had given him to us, because he was just this most healing child. I can't explain it. He used to walk in and he just got me, and he used to take, when he was about 2 or 3, he used to take my face in his hands when I was crying and go, "Mommy, don't be sad. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay." He was a healer, you know. And then, and I was always obviously a bit neurotic because it was all very fresh and that, and I was always quite scared that anything was going to happen to him, so I was a bit overprotective. And I had to just let that go because I was paranoid that I just, you know what it's, you just think you can't possibly face losing another child, so I was very overprotective of him. And then I got over that, finally, eventually, although I don't think you actually ever really, really do. Hey, you always worry about your children. And then Katie, she's also just a little ray of hope, and little sounds corny to say a little ray of sunshine, but she's just the happiest, most beautiful child who just fills every single need and bit of love and that I need. So also, like, I just feel like I've been blessed with these children that are just so healing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's just fulfilled. Fulfilled, just absolutely perfect for, it sounds terrible to say, for what I need, but they were
It
just,
doesn't sound terrible. It sounds wonderful.
yeah, they're just the most, and all of them, I mean, all 3 of them are just obviously just as special as each other. But after having lost Megan Rose, I never thought, they didn't think I'd be able to have any more children because I was very badly injured. And there I am now with 2 more beautiful children.
I think that I chose survival because of Jodie and Lara. And Colin and Lily.
Your grandchildren.
Yeah, but I think I chose survival because of them. They have their own journey of grief, and they navigate it beautifully. I mean, all of them, actually. Yeah. As I am in Clive, actually. They're all. It's amazing what it does. I think it makes life.
Are they older or younger?
Yes, no, they.
Older.
One was a year younger, so Hilton is 41.
Hilton was the oldest.
Lara is 40, and then Jodie is 35. So they had a lifetime with him too.
And the journey of
And the journey
Addiction.
of his addiction, which is so multifaceted and so layered and so traumatic in so many ways. Yeah.
So what's the one thing, or what would you say to somebody who has come to you for some advice early on in the loss of a child? They've come to you and they said, "You've lost a child."
Nobody's actually really even asked me that, so I don't know about you, Wens.
Oh, it's such a difficult question. It's
I mean,
a really
no-
good question, Sally. I think that if somebody came to me having lost a child, I would just hold them.
No words.
No.
Because I have got very close friends who have lost children, and teenage children, and yeah, it's been tragic. And I'd like to think that I have been enough for them in that time, but neither of them have actually obviously said, what do I do, or what can you advise me to do? But I would just like to think that I have been there and fulfilled some sort of comfort in that, because there is nothing really, there's no right or wrong. So I think they know, they have to just know that you know their grief, you know their rawness, you know that there's just the horribleness of it. That's the only word I can think of. And just by being there, and like Gwen says, just holding, crying with them, being there at supporting them through the goodbyes and the funeral services and the after, you know, especially once everybody's gone off and everybody's getting on with their own lives, that's the most difficult time. That's when you really need to be there for someone. And keeping their child and the memories of their children alive, and just speaking their name, and being there to listen. It's a very difficult one, because there's actually nothing that you should. I don't think there's anything that you should actually say. Do you know what I mean, Wens?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can say, I'm sorry. You're not going to say, I mean, obviously.
But there's very little really to say. It's just, if somebody comes, then it's about holding space for them and knowing that they have someone who understands.
So just bring you back to now and where we are. Take a deep breath. Is what brings you joy now?
What brings us joy now? Just, I suppose, my family, my amazing family, where I live, my incredible friends, people, just trying to get as much joy out of life as I possibly can. And I won't lie, I do suffer a lot with anxiety, and have to be on certain medications and that, because I definitely think it does leave a part of your heart. It does change you forever. You're never going to be the same person that you were. I mean, I think I used to be the most spontaneous, free, sort of spirited. I still love life, but I used to be far more relaxed, far more easygoing, far more not worrying about consequences, less cynical than I am now. Now I know that crap things that can happen in life that you never think are going to happen to you. I know that stuff happens.
You cut through.
And so, and I wish I didn't. I wish I could lose all of that and be as free-spirited as I used to be. But I still find joy in life. I mean, obviously I've got an amazing family. I've got a beautiful husband. I've got beautiful friends. I live in like I said, a beautiful place. But there's always something that's not quite there. I think you'll always walk around with the heaviness, and part of your soul or your heart is gone forever, and it's never going to. I don't think it can ever come back. I don't know. Hopefully, do you agree, Wendy, or not?
Yeah, I think that
It just changes you.
Yeah, I am, as I said before, I'm a completely different person to the person I was before Hilton died. And I think that I've learned to find joy in the simple moments and the simple experiences, and that's often around family and really close friends. So there is joy, but joy, I've learnt or come to believe, it can be a transient emotion, because there's the layer of loss. But I do feel joy. I absolutely do feel joy. And it's in the simple moments that I find the joy, in the mindful moments of being fully present in an experience or a conversation, or even with seeing my grandson drawing a picture of me that looks like an alien.
Yeah. No, there is
Can
joy.
not say that, he's watching.
I do feel joy, but with a little bit of heaviness. That's where I can put it.
And the heaviness.
It's like a little bit of weight. It's weighted, yeah.
It's just a little bit weighted.
Yeah.
But then, I think there's room for practicing gratitude. Gratitude really brings the space for joy.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure, that was an amazing interview. I've loved it.
Thanks, Sans.
I've loved it because you're so you're so honest and you're so raw, and because it can help so many people.
I hope so.
But I want to just
Any questions?
finish this section off with something that Wendy sent me, which I think is such a beautiful piece of writing. Grief is a practice, not a problem to fix. It's a practice of holding on and letting go, of letting in and letting out, of falling and rising and speaking and listening, of honoring and living, of trembling and soothing, of carving out a space for love and loss to coexist in our heads and in our hearts. It's the practice of being human. And thank you for being human tonight. Thank you for giving us your raw emotions and for allowing me to get a glimpse and share a glimpse of what really happens when things
Thanks,
are so flippin' tough, eh? And I really, really, really appreciate it. And I hope that it wasn't too difficult, and I hope that
I'm very grateful.
it
for
wasn't,
this.
yeah. Oh, so we've got so many people coming on. Oh, wow. Okay, Tanya, loved your dare to share. Fiona reads, hello, Sans. Tanya, thank your dare to share. This is a bit. Oh, thank you. You handle these challenging,
She's
so
right.
difficult. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. And then Wayne Jepson, thank you for sharing this. Meryl Thompson, such an incredible woman. They are. The vulnerability is definitely from God, that's for sure. Fiona, what a conversation. My heart goes out to you both. Thank you for your candor. Where are we? Linky, sending love. My heart is with both of you beautiful moms. Thanks for sharing. Wow, everyone's just pouring out here. Thank you so much. It's so good to hear. There you go, such a hard conversation, deep and profound. So I hope you, Wendy and Shareen, you're feeling that you've shared and you've been, very, not enlightening is the word, but, you've shared pain, which is, and then Bella, Michelle, you're amazing. Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to say, anything before we close out and before we invite our last guest to come on for a story?
No, I'm just grateful.
Me too. I can't even remember the beginning of the conversation.
That's what happened.
I hope I told my, I hope I
You did.
was okay,
You
but
did.
it was.
Well done, Sans.
Thank you.
the
And you
beginning
can
was
take your
hectic.
wine outside now
Thank
and
you.
go outside.
And listen to the next story.
Thanks, Sans.
Thank you. Thanks, Shans.
Just getting my bag.
Okay, we have a little extra bit which I'm so grateful for too. Sue got hold of us and wanted to tell a bit of her story, and so I'm so grateful. Do you want to come on, Sue? Come on. Is this side good? Yeah. Okay, that's good. So Sue has had a tough journey. She hasn't only lost one child; she's lost two. But tonight we're going to just focus on her son, Kent. And she's got a story about, when people die, we often look for signs. We look for, or we find feathers and we say, oh, this is my dad. But Sue's got an extra special story to tell because this is a beautiful story. Sue not only loves animals, but...
As did my children.
As did your children. And when did Kent pass?
2018.
So it's still very raw for
Yeah.
you. But would you like to just share this beautiful story?
I would. I'd love to. First of all, let me say thank you to these two ladies. I concur with almost every word they said. I wish I still had other children for comfort, but I don't. I've got friends. And I've got a new friend. The story is about my son Kent, who used to live in South Africa, went to school here, and went to the UK, married, went to the UK about 2006 or so. And do I look at you or at that?
No, you can look at it. That's better if you look at the camera.
Okay. The marriage didn't last, unfortunately. It was an amicable divorce. And Kent lived on a golf estate where he had his own business. He was a business coach and helped so many people. Gosh, so changed their lives, in fact. In 2016, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is a virulent, incurable form of cancer, and lived for 26 months after that. Living on the golf estate, adjacent to that was a golf club, and that's where he had his office, so he was able to just walk to and from work. And his business partner was a wonderful, wonderful, my earth angel, one of the earth angels, a business partner called Natalie. It was a beautiful golf course, and there were creatures around, including swans. Often saw them as we went walking around. But 2018, towards the end of November, I got a phone call. Ah, there he is. See the Springbok jersey
I see
behind
that.
him?
I see
yeah,
that.
that is about 2 weeks before Kent died. Yeah, he didn't speak anymore, and I've just remembered something. Remind me to say about him not speaking.
Okay.
Anyway, Natalie phoned me at about midday and said, Sue, Kent's had a seizure. When can you get here? And I said, I'll come tonight. So I flew that night and landed in England the next day. Went straight to see Kent, and although he couldn't speak, he certainly recognised me and squeezed my hand and sort of mouthed, which was lovely. Went home, and I was staying in his house on the golf estate. And the next morning when I woke up, I looked out of the window, upstairs window, down onto a putting green that was in front of his house. Early morning, and cold in December in England. I said November, end of November. There was a beautiful swan, a white swan, and as I looked at the swan, it raised its wings, I nearly said arms, wings upwards, so beautifully, and I was so moved, and I spoke to the swan. I don't know if any of you speak to animals.
We speak to animals a lot.
I spoke to the swan, and I said, please take Kent, please take him quickly, because he's suffering, and it's not Kent lying there. Please take him to wherever. And that was the end of that. A few hours later, Natalie arrived to fetch me, to take me to the hospital to visit Kent, and I related the story to her of the swan that morning. She said, oh, that's Kent's swan. I said, what? She said, yeah, that's Sammy, Kent's swan. I said, what do you mean? So she said, well, it started about 2 months ago. She said, I went out on a business thing, came back, and Kent was sitting on the deck, flat on the floor, on the deck outside the office, with a swan next to him. Now, swans don't do that.
No, they don't.
So Natalie said to him, gosh, Mr. Rhodes, you've become quite the swan whisperer. And Kent didn't like the swan because the swan crapped on his deck. And Natalie, who's English and doesn't speak Afrikaans, said Kent was forever going out with a mop and a broom and saying, cuck. And I said, yeah, he was moaning about the cuck. So, but this swan was persistent. It came every day and tapped on the window. They didn't feed it, they didn't encourage it, always on its own. And so the weeks went by. He had arrived about 3 weeks before his death. And on the night of Kent's death, we went to the care home where he was staying in early hours of the morning, came back at about 2 a.m. and lying in front of the clubhouse near the office were two swans. Two swans curled into each other. And I just thought, this swan had a partner all the time. How amazing that it, boy or girl, I don't know, Sammy, it took over Kent as his or her partner for that time. Also left me an odd feather at the door, and so on. The funny thing is that one day I picked up the feather and took it to Kenton Hospital, and I said, "This feather comes from Sammy." And he looked at it and he went, and he used it to clean his teeth. Which was not very, I mean, he was supposed to be... Anyway, it's not quite the end. Gary's put up that photo because after the service, we had a celebration of life, not a funeral. And after I was back in South Africa, about 2 days later, Natalie sent me that picture that Gary's just put up, if you just do it again, saying Sammy and his friend, her friend, came and sent us swan love.
Oh,
and I just, of course you don't want to lose a child, of course you don't, but there was a kind of closure in the fact that I had brought this child into the world and I was with him when he left the world. And the swans were just a link between that world out there that we don't know about and this world that we're so much in.
It's such a beautiful story.
Yeah. And I wanted to say about him not speaking, those of you who are South African will remember a program on TV called Liver Hexie. I don't know if you do. Any of you remember Liver Hexie? I was sitting next to Kent's bed in hospital one day. He hadn't spoken a word, and I thought, I'm never going to hear his voice again. And I started singing Liver Hexie, and believe it or not, he finished the song. En ek was al op die maan.
He did.
He finished the song and I heard his voice. Sure. So that's just a very tiny snippet of my long story. My daughter Judy has also died, and that's a difficult one, so we won't go into it tonight. Thanks, Sandy.
No, I'm not finished with you. I wanted to show you. Kent was my friend from Keith Ian Foree. Yes, a beautiful soul. I was one of his mentors, and his gentleness lives
Keith.
on in me.
Thank you, Keith.
There
That's
you go.
wonderful. The lady who was here earlier, Shareen, who
Yes.
told about her baby,
Yes.
she and Kent used to play together as kids.
Oh, how's that for a link?
In Mount Croix and at St. Francis. So
we're all linked.
Lovely. We're all linked. And here they are around my neck.
Around your neck too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sue, thank you for coming in, and thanks
Thank
for putting your hand up to contribute. I
I wanted to make us smile about the cuck.
No, and you did. But we also know, I'm never going to look at a swan without thinking of Kent. That's
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Yeah, Sammy the Swan. Whether he was gay or straight, I don't know. He was a swan.
He can be anything, as long as there's love. As long as there's love.
As long as there's love at the end. Thanks, Sandy. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you, Sue.
Okay.
And just to end off, and I'm looking at Wendy and Shareen, they're not going to be here, but there is no word in the English dictionary for a parent who's lost a child. There are words for widows and widowers, but there is no word for a mother or a father who have lost children or a child. And in that space, I wish you all peace, and I wish you love, and I wish we would find a word. But I think the biggest word is that there's love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies, I'm so glad that you took this one. Yeah, because I don't think I would have made it through that. Sandy, Sue, thanks
Wendy,
ladies as well.
Shareen.
Wendy and Shareen is backstage at the moment as well. This has been a fantastic
Come on,
Sandy's
with
Coffey
your
Break.
wine. Bring your
Yes,
wine.
come through. Bring the wine. We got the wine. I ran
Sit
out
on my
of
knee,
drink already.
Shareen.
There we go.
Ooh.
Thank you to the
There
ladies
we
for
go.
coming in today. It's been we've had a fantastic sharing session and lots of tissues and stuff going on.
And one.
And thank you so much to Sandy for
No,
putting this
thank
on
you
the
for
video.
giving us this platform.
Amazing, and we
Thanks,
will have
thanks.
many more Sandy's Coffee Breaks.
Oh, there we go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to watch tomorrow night as well. Of course, we've got Arnold on tomorrow. We're going to be talking about what we should do with animals and
Oh, that's
with,
good. That's
with
good.
nature
It's Arnold.
and
It's
swans.
Arnold.
There, there it is. That's an owl. That's an owl. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you to our sponsors, to Spa.
Thanks, sponsors.
Spa, Leeds, and Amobia for our internet.
And thanks to Gary for the backline there.
Yay!
Fantastic.
Thanks, Gary.
The tech
I think
wizard.
it's time for some wine.
Yes, it's time for some wine. I'd say so.
Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. Drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver. Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.